circumstances, her two grandmothers especially, weren't able to fulfill this musical yearning they had. And Joni tells the story about one of her grandmothers. She thought they were going to be able to afford a piano. And finally she could fulfill her dream of spending hours playing at the piano. But when she found out, oh, we have expense, we can't afford the piano, the grandmother that my ancestors can take pleasure in as well. At the beginning of this shaman journey of mine, decades ago, I was very intrigued by these exotic shaman disciplines in faraway places. In Mexico and Tibet, a guy down in Chile who was a Sufi master and was preaching his gospel, and I became buddies with John Lilly for a while. The guy, I almost was tempted to go and study with this Sufi master. And one of my committee members in graduate school was an anthropology professor who I was a big fan of studying with a sorcerer, a shaman in Mexico. And my professor who worked with Carlos was fascinated with the culture in Yemen, over on the Arabian Peninsula, Yemen together, and study their way of wisdom and this whole Arab concept of the whirling dervish. So all these faraway places and these faraway exotic shaman disciplines. But then I realized that my tradition from northern Western Europe, my ancestral bloodlines, was more of the troubadour and the bard.